Thank you for joining us for Elko Live today. I am your host, Lori Gilbert, and I'm so excited to have two great guests in studio to talk about an amazing career opportunity serving your community in a very important capacity. So first, I will introduce Professor Dave Sexton from Great Basin College. Would you mind, should we call you Dave? That's what I've always known you as. Yes, Dave is perfect. Dave Sexton is the criminal justice professor, GBC, right? And you've had a long career in law enforcement. We were just about to tell some funny stories, and then we had to go to work. So it's great that you're here in our community, yes. And you brought with you today Karrie Hunton. Karrie, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Karrie is Elko County Regional Communications Center Communications Manager, and she's going to talk about her role as a professional in the front line of emergency services in Elko County and the important role of emergency telecommunications, also known as a dispatcher. And now there is this really cool class, Dave, that I was hoping you wouldn't mind telling us about, because this is an online program and it provides students with all the things that they need to know to apply, right, to become a dispatcher.
That's what we're hoping. Yeah, this is a skill certificate. The college is moving in the direction of offering a lot more skill certificates. Health and Human Services offers quite a few. Science is offering a new one. A skill certificate is less than a degree. It's not a 2-year commitment. It's a concentrated, our course here, we're calling it an emergency telecommunications skill certificate. It's 1 semester. If you go full-time, it's 15 credits, which is 5 different classes. So if you're able to go full-time, you could do this in a semester. If you need to go part-time, which many of our students do, you could take it over a year. It's going to be offered every semester, so you could take half of it one semester and half of another semester. So it's 1 full 16-week course, and then 4 8-week courses, kind of speedy ones. So it's a new direction that we're heading. It's the first certificate that our criminal justice program is offering. We're working on another one for working police officers. But it's kind of a new pickup that the school wants to go towards.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, and it sounds as though really the requirement is that you be 18 or older.
Actually, this course is being offered to our dual enrollment students.
Really?
So
Fantastic.
At the high school. So the certificates are built to stack. And so the dual enrollment students can take it, and it stacks. These courses will all stack eventually into a degree if they want. Students starting with the emergency dispatcher certificate, if they want, all of these classes then will stack into a 2-year criminal justice degree if they want to. So it's all meant to lead, once you get your feet wet and get your foot in the door, to additional education. It's a good starting place. But no, we'll be offering it to the high schoolers. Most of our criminal justice classes, as we kind of know, if you're going to go into law enforcement or something, you have to be 21. That requirement is not there for dispatchers. You can be younger. Many of our really rural outlying centers sometimes rely on younger people.
Well, that is fantastic. We're going to find out directly about that from Karrie Hunton. And Dave, when we come back and talk to you, and obviously, though, you can chime in anytime because, this is a great opportunity to talk about, the reality of what Great Basin College is offering as compared to, what Karrie does on the job as she's dispatching here in Elko. But when we come back, Dave, we'll talk about, again, the more specifics of this program, as you said, the 16 weeks, and there's some 101 classes and working all the way up to 263, which sounds like a great variety. So wonderful. And we'll even talk about how students might qualify for financial aid and get advisement, which is underway at GBC. So
great.
Perfect. So Karrie, thank you so much for coming on the radio with us today. People will get to hear your voice, and I just want to say that hopefully they won't have to hear your voice on the other end of an emergency, but if they do, you are well trained and qualified to help them through just about any situation, I'm guessing.
We do deal with a lot of different situations in our day-to-day job, and we have extensive training in dealing with all kinds of different situations. So, yes.
Yep, you hear about the things like, oh, a baby was delivered, or or there was an intruder, or so we can talk about maybe some of those really cool stories. I bet you have some cool stories that you can share that don't give any identifying information away. Certainly we wouldn't do that. But how long have you been communications manager with the Elko County Regional Communications Center?
So I've been the communications manager for just a little over a year when the county took over in July. And so I became the communications manager. I've worked in dispatch in a capacity for 13 years.
Wow, that's great. So you started your profession fairly young.
I did.
Yes, and good for us for doing that. So let's talk about the overview of the job, what your day might be like, what you want people to know about being a dispatcher.
So being a dispatcher is a variety. Different centers have different ways that they do it. Here in Elko, we handle the 911 calls and non-emergency calls. So our dispatchers are answering both of those type of calls along with all the radio communication from our user agencies, law enforcement, fire, and EMS. In bigger cities, they might break those out. But here we do everything. We're kind of a one-stop shop. And so we're dealing with that. And really, we're just serving as that critical link between the public and our emergency services.
Really are the critical link, because not only are you helping the person who's calling in who may be having the worst day of their life, certainly, but you're also communicating that to the rescuer on the other end.
Yes. So we're dealing with the person on the phone and our radio traffic with our responders.
All right. So, Karrie, you're also, in having 13 years in experience in this local position, you've seen a lot of changes with the new technology, right? Because we all heard about how behind the times Elko used to be.
Yes. So since I've been there, we've gone through now on our second CAD system, which is our computer-aided dispatch system. We have next gen 911. Which is still, we're waiting for some of the carriers to start providing that information, but it'll give us location information for callers. So that's a new technology that we're utilizing, which eventually will lead to the ability to do text to 911, potentially video to 911. It opens up a lot of opportunity to get information a lot of different ways from the public.
Wow, that'll be fantastic. It is a work in progress, and we should feel proud because we've helped to fund this new technology through the E911 board, right?
Yeah. Yes, okay. The E911 fund, the board has done a great job at helping get this rolling and continuing to fund it in a responsible way.
And we should thank Elko County Commissioners for their vote of approval in that. It was a struggle to get there because nobody likes fees, but certainly it's a fee that everybody was paying on a cell phone, for example, if you have one, but it just wasn't going to our local community.
It was going to other communities, and now it's staying local and is being used to advance the center in a lot of good ways that are going to serve well.
And I'm happy to talk about that too with Karrie Hunton, because this new technology I would think would be exciting maybe to new people to the profession, or to even younger people who are used to a lot of technology.
Yes, so as dispatchers, sometimes we're a little reluctant to change, but we get there eventually and do see the value in it. It can get overwhelming sometimes with all the different technology that's available, and so we have to just implement that responsibly so we're really using it to its full potential.
So it sounds like this course that we're going to be talking about today, that Great Basin College is offering completely online, that you can complete within the year, or you can break it down into separate semesters if you need to. It will provide an opportunity for, obviously it's been a rewarding career for you, right, Karrie?
It has. It is a very rewarding career.
So let's talk about what kind of skills might be helpful for someone considering becoming a dispatcher.
So I think it's not a perfect science. There's always things that people bring to the table that others don't, and it's kind of having multiple people in the room that bring different things to the table that really gives us our success. But some basic kind of things are someone who's good at multitasking. It requires us to be able to type, listen, and respond to things all at the same time. Someone who can communicate clearly. We need to be able to let the caller and the responders know what's going on and paint that scene picture for them. Someone who's good at decision making. You have to make quick decisions and they can affect someone's life. So it's important that you have that critical thinking. Empathy and patience are a big thing. You have people calling you on the worst day of their life. So you have to have empathy and patience with them to try to really get good information and help them wait for the responders to get there. And I think someone who can just handle the high stress. We deal with a lot of high stress situations. We deal with a lot of traumatic events. And so you have to have good coping mechanisms for that.
And you're also helping because, again, you're that important communication to, as you said, paint the picture for what emergency responders are rolling up on.
Yes, yeah. And typing is a big thing. Have some skills in typing because our job requires us to type all that information into that computer-aided dispatch system. So.
There might be people listening who say, gosh, I think I am kind of good at that, right? I mean, I enjoy typing. I enjoy, helping people, obviously. And so this course is something that could help people become a dispatcher, or could it also maybe determine for them, Karrie, that it's not the right position?
I think that's really the big thing when people come into this profession. They have an idea of what it is, but they don't really know what it is. And I feel like this course is setting kind of a groundwork to determine what it is to be a dispatcher. The public and applicants a lot of the time don't have a full understanding of what it's like to be an emergency dispatcher. And this course, I think, really sets groundwork for you to understand what this job entails.
So maybe we could also just describe what a schedule would be like. I mean, are there different shifts? Obviously, this is 24/7, right, Karrie?
Correct. So that's one of the challenges that people have in this profession is the shift work. We're here 24/7, 365 days. There's no day we're not open. And so we work night shifts, we work swing shifts, we have day shifts, sometimes there's cover shifts, and we're there for all the holidays. And so that can be really disruptive in your personal life. And so you have to have the ability to kind of adapt and, maybe you don't celebrate Christmas on Christmas. And so it's kind of those things. But we are a really big family and we all support each other. We spend hours and hours with each other. The shifts are long, we're going to 12-hour shifts here in January, plus potential overtime, so long shifts.
All right, and those are important considerations, again, that could be attractive to people, though, simply a lot of people who are in the mining industry, for example, there are lots of different challenges, and shift work is also among those. So is there anything that maybe attracted you in particular, Karrie, and keeps you in this job that obviously is stressful, but you've been doing it for 13 years?
Yeah, so for me, it's really about the ability to make a difference in someone's life, and it's not always a really stressful situation. It can be kind of a day-to-day thing for someone, but I get to make a difference for them. And so that's a big part for me. I enjoy helping people. Before I was a dispatcher, I was in the medical profession, so I've kind of lived a life of servitude. I like that it's not the same thing every day. Something changes all the time. It's always something new. I mean, there's things that repeat, but I pick up the phone and it may be something I haven't ever dealt with in 13 years. So it keeps me on my toes. I like the teamwork aspect of it and working with the law enforcement and fire and EMS along with my fellow dispatchers. And then job stability. It's been a very stable job for me, and it's provided well for my family, and just giving back to the community. So,
Karrie Hunton is Communications Manager for Elko County Regional Communications Center, and she's been in this position. She's been with a dispatcher for 13 years, and as a Communications Manager, she's been able to elevate into that position, so for the last year or so. And you touched on it a bit, Karrie, and it's not unique to Elko, but it is difficult to retain dispatchers, right? Did you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. Dispatch does have a historical value of having low retention rates, and it's not unique here. It's every center that I've ever talked to. And I think it just a lot of it has to do with that high stress level and dealing with those really traumatic events, those violent events. Some people just don't, they take that call and they're like, you know what, this isn't what I think I want to do anymore. A lot of centers are understaffed, so it increases the workload, and that contributes to physical and mental exhaustion. Again, that lack of public understanding of exactly what we do in dispatch, and sometimes that leads to like a lack of appreciation, and some people want that kind of positive feedback and we don't necessarily always get it. And then another problem a lot of centers have is like insufficient training or support. Because of that low staffing, people get kind of pushed through and they don't feel like they're ready to go on their own.
Wow. Well, it sounds as though, with all of that being considered, Karrie, that you as a communications manager and now with our regional communications center and all the improvements we've been able to achieve with the E911 fund, the new technology, that you're addressing some of these problems with this course, Online Skills Certificate for Emergency Telecommunications for Dispatchers. You'd love to hire more people.
Of course. There's so many centers out there looking for dispatchers. It's a great career field to go into. You'll be able to find work if you can do the job.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Even if you were to get started in Elko, I'm sure, Dave, you look like you'd like to say something. No, I think he appreciates this conversation too. But you would serve, you could serve obviously as Karrie does. She's covering all these different areas, but police, fire department, the Bureau of Land Management has a dispatch, I believe, the interagency. Yeah, highway patrol.
State police, I guess.
Oh, thank you. They are now, you're right. Police. Yes. Oh, that's true. Medical emergency services, mining, other work environments. So there are lots of different dispatching positions available, even locally.
Yes.
Okay. And this course these series of courses would prepare you for that, again, with an online skills certificate. And it all gets started in the spring semester. But as Professor Sexton has described, it sounds like something you could kind of pick up too if you were to get started a little bit later. And I wanted to ask you too, you mentioned the culture of a dispatcher. There's a real family atmosphere because you are all working those long shifts. Stress impacts people in different ways. Sometimes you don't feel appreciated. I bet sometimes people are really rude on the phone, even, unfortunately, right? Hopefully they apologize later, but stress because you're afraid is one thing, but being mean is another thing.
Yeah. One big thing that makes a successful dispatcher is you don't take anything personal. The person on the other side of that phone line, they have no idea who you are. They just know they have a problem, and you're that first person they're talking to that can potentially help them solve that problem.
Wow, that is so thoughtful, really, Karrie, because forgiveness is huge in the human experience, and you have to allow for a lot of forgiveness, I'm sure, on your end, just knowing what someone else may be going through.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I wanted to know if there were any helpful tips that you might give someone listening who says, I never had to call 911, but what would you really appreciate on the other end if someone did have to call in the event of an emergency?
One of the most critical pieces of information you can provide is where you are. What is your location? You're always going to be asked that. You're going to be asked for a callback number, and then you're going to be asked for details about what's going on. And so just being able to kind of just take a breath and give that information. And we do ask a lot of questions, but it's not delaying the response of responders. We're getting information as they're en route and updating them.
That's really good that you mentioned that, because I do believe both fire and police now have, at least they were laptops or they have tablets now in their vehicles.
They do. EMS also has it, so everybody can kind of see what's going on.
Wow, that's fantastic. And again, part of that new technology that we're helping to fund, bringing us into the new century. And then if you're a parent, we talked about that too. We love our children so much, but is there anything that parents can do to help children if they were ever in a situation to call 911?
Of course, make sure first off that your child knows how to call 911. On a cell phone, most people don't have landlines anymore, right? So make sure that they understand how to do that, and make sure they know their address. That's, again, a critical piece of information. As advanced technology comes, we'll have that more and more, but we don't always get that information.
And that's important to stress, is that because you call 911, and we are actually working on that next gen 911, but it's not there yet. And sometimes these services don't even work in rural, very outlying areas, right, Karrie?
As long as they have a phone connection, they can contact 911. And sometimes even if they have a very low signal, it gets amplified and they can still reach us.
That's good to know. So teach your children as young as possible, and then also teach them that it is for an emergency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teach them what an emergency is, why they would need to call 911. Not the cat up the tree. That's not a 911 call.
And are there any other examples? You are free to make, Karrie, without pointing fingers at anyone, but obviously when not to call 911.
So we do receive a lot of 911 calls regarding animal issues like dogs running at large. That's a non-emergency issue for us. Emergency issues we consider like life and danger situations for humans. Obviously, if it's like an aggressive dog attacking someone, that changes the situation. So just think human life danger, that's 911.
All right. And here in the Elko area, I don't know if you are the one that picks those up too, but after hours or non-emergency communications, is it still 775-777-7300?
Correct. That's the non-emergency number.
Good. Okay, good to know. And then you can call 7310. I think that might get you the police station,
That's
right?
the police department, the city police department.
Elko City Police Department. And then they can help you with different things too, the front office if they're open. But please do keep in mind that there is a person on the end of your call. So if you're calling in an emergency, try so hard to collect those thoughts. And I think what Karrie said is the most important thing is, where are you? That's the first thing. Where are you? And then probably, what do you see? What's happening? That kind of thing.
Yes. And please, if you don't know whether to call 911, call. Don't not call. We will let you know if we need you to call back on the non-emergency number.
And you'll do it kindly, which is also so important, Karrie. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we know that, again, that it's a very stressful job. So we covered a lot of bases there with Karrie, and I just want to kind of roll Professor Sexton back in. And did you learn some things about how amazing your instructor is?
I know how amazing my instructor are. The 2 dispatch courses we're offering, I've hired dispatchers to teach those. I want somebody who's in the field that can say, last night we did this, and talk about. So Karrie's going to teach one of the classes, one of the 8-week classes, and then I've got a lead training dispatcher out of Nye County that's going to teach the other one. So we're going to have real life people teaching, or real life dispatchers teaching, what's currently going on. The other 2 classes we're offering, and part of this are 2 of our regular criminal justice. The first one's an intro class, which just explains the system, the cops, the courts, the corrections, the judges, the EMS, all the players in the field, so you understand who's who and who does what. And the other one is our communications class, which we really bend and shape around rural enforcement. We try to do this class. I got the idea for this class. TMCC was partnering with Sparks PD, offering a similar class, but they had their students embedded into Sparks Dispatch and learning their system. And it was an extremely good system, but it was very urban. It was very metro. It was something that we couldn't do because we're trying to cover so many counties. So being online, you can take this anywhere in the state or the country, I guess. I talked to West Wendover, I talked to Elko, I talked to Winnemucca, I talked to Pahrump, I talked to Eureka when we were developing this course, and we'll be visiting each one of those centers. We're going to do video tours of each one of those centers so the students can see what it's like to work in the different centers. Humboldt County has got the most gorgeous center I think I visited. It's a wonderful center. It's huge and new and modern and beautiful, and they got 2 people in there trying to run it. They are so short-staffed. Dispatch is such a high turnover area, and it's because I think the people just aren't prepared. They just don't know what they're getting into, and we want to try to show that. We want to get them prepared for that if you do this, and then if you go apply, you know what you're getting into, and it's not a surprise to you, and it's not a shock to you, and we are going to use a 8-week training manual that is remarkably similar, or is the training manual that a lot of the different departments use. We can't hardly teach one system because nobody uses the same system. When TMCC is embedded in Sparks, they're learning that system. Well, West Wendover does not use Elko's, does not use Winnemucca's, does not use Eureka's. There's a lot of different systems out there. So you have to know the basics, but we're not going to teach a specific system. I have greedy intentions on this. When I was working the street, I put my 30 years in, and there was something about, undoubtedly, when you sign on, you go in service, if there's that certain voice that answers back to you, that makes all the difference in the world. If you're out there working in the field, there are dispatchers out there that your absolute best bud, your best partner, your best friend. They are amazing. The good ones are amazing. They get the information from the caller. They know what you need. They know when you need it. They know where you need it. They pull up the info that you're already going to ask for before you get there, and they're remarkably easy to talk to. You can get back into the office and call them on the phone and get everything you didn't have. And there's the great dispatchers are great. You remember those people, and you would like to keep those people and kill this turnover, and keep this. So that was really the impotence behind this, is to give people the knowledge and the skills. And yes, we have a huge keyboarding class. The original keyboarding class that they offered here on campus, I think Madison said they try to get students up to 30 words a minute. And I said, well, that's not going to cut it. I mean, we need to do it at least 40, which I think the kids do with their thumbs on their phones. I mean, I can't imagine that being an issue, but we need, and we'd rather have, I'm sure Karrie would much rather have somebody that types 60 or 90 words a minute. So that's a skill. That's an actual physical, practical skill that we have to teach, because if you can't type, you can't dispatch. And that's a skill we can teach, though. It's not something if you can't teach. I mean, I grew up in the era I type with my 2 fingers, but it's a skill we can teach.
So that 15 credit certificate does include there right at the top, COT 101, computer keyboarding.
Yes.
And that's where you learn that. So people that don't type well shouldn't automatically check out. I mean, right? I don't know if you were the best typist when you started, Karrie, or...
I did learn how to type in high school and continued that skill, but it is a skill that you can learn if you work at it. And so I don't think that automatically disqualifies you. You just have to do the work to be able to type.
Yeah, because you do achieve it. I mean, and it's a satisfying skill, right?
It is. I love being able to type fast.
Yeah, it's cool. It is. That's, I think, a good word to use. It's satisfying, and it's something that, like anything you learn, whether you're playing a musical instrument or taking yoga, it's repetition. You just do it more and become familiar.
And it's something we can teach online. Mm-hmm. It's something we can teach. I mean, all of these classes. That's the great thing about all these classes. You can, if you live on a mountainside outside of Tonopah, you can take these classes and pass this course. At the end of the class, when we get to our finals, is when we'll be taking all of the hiring exams, and we'll be offering the hiring exams that they're going to possibly meet out in the field. All the different departments use different ones. So again, but you're going to get to take those, and you're going to get to practice call taking and practice listening and practicing reading a map and practicing sending the guy the right direction and practicing, all the different skills. And again, this is not just police focused. Fire and EMS, all of my dispatch centers that I ever ran were small, little independent one-stops, like Karrie says, and we did everything. And that was great, though, because then you had the same dispatcher dispatching the fire guys as the ambulance, the cops, and they knew what they were doing, and it wasn't, it was all coordinated. So it's a great way to do it, and I think it'll hopefully meet the requirements of all of our little rural area departments spread out through the GBC area.
Where, again, great demand. And I don't think it's untoward to ask, since you're a manager, Karrie, I mean, is there like a starting salary? Should we entice people with just reminding them that you could start this career and end up making a pretty good living?
So the starting salary for our dispatch center is $22.40 an hour. But we also have really good benefits to go with that. and you're in town. So we find it difficult sometimes to compete with the mines. Obviously, you're going to do shift work. So it's hard to compete there, but we do have good benefits. We are in town, and I think that's a perk for some people. We have a lot of moms that work at the center, and we all make it work for each other. And it is a really big family, like I said, and there's options to figure out how to get time off if you need it, and everybody's kind of willing to step up and help with that.
Nice. So the quality of life. And we do know a lot of people who, as you said, it may be difficult to compete with mining salaries, but it's about the quality of life and spending time close to home, Dave. So what a great course that you put together. Again, it's 15 credits, and you can start as early as the spring semester. You can be in high school.
Absolutely start the spring semester.
Yes.
And two of the classes, the two CJ classes, are already part of that dual enrollment learning, part of the association. So people might already be halfway through the certificate and only have to pick up a couple of more classes to get a certificate on their resume. So they could be halfway there already.
And there are ways to get financial aid. There are ways to pay for these classes and courses too, right, Dave?
We have departments that handle that. Above my pay grade, but they can certainly help you.
I would say see Mike. Go see Mike McGee and any of the staff really in advisement or admissions at GBC. But you can get all this started online, gbcnv.edu. And where will we find this course in particular? We're talking with Professor Dave Sexton. He is heading up the criminal justice program at GBC. The course, its online skills certificate is emergency telecommunications training for dispatch.
And unfortunately, because of timing and because of the year, it's not listed in the catalog per se yet where it should be listed. But hopefully we're getting enough advertising out, enough word of mouth out, and you can, all over campus, you can contact me. My email is david.sexton@gbcnv.edu. You can contact me. You can contact any of our advisors. You can contact, and hopefully we'll get the word out. Then we'll be in the next catalog too and get that much more word out.
Absolutely. That's actually easy. You don't have to drill down with a bunch of information. You just go directly to the source, david.sexton@gbcnv.edu. Enroll now. There are these 5 courses, starts as early as the spring semester, and by the end of this course,
You could be there.
You could be there. Dave, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Lori.
Did we get to all the topics you were hoping on this particular one?
I believe so.
There's another day for other topics, I'm sure, but thank you. And Karrie, thank you so much. I didn't give you a chance to tell if you had any story that maybe is a highlight for you or something that you felt like you could share. Because again, dispatching is also, you're dealing with people's private lives. So I don't know if there's something in general, but.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of my favorite things was actually I got to help deliver a baby on the phone. And so it doesn't happen as often as you think it does. So that was really kind of fun, and finding out the sex of the baby when it was born. And so that was a fun call that I enjoyed. The dad was kind of freaking out a little bit, and I was able to kind of calm him down. He had a bunch of boys running around, so I gave them all tasks to do: go find a string, go find a clean towel, and so kind of just able to help calm that situation down. But it was fun. It was a fun call.
That's wonderful. I can just picture that. Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that story. Did you get to hear the baby cry?
I did, and actually I met the baby like 12 years later. So I just met that baby that I delivered not that long ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
Karrie. That's, well, another reason why you're sticking with dispatching. Thank you so much. You really do make a huge difference in people's lives on the receiving end. And of course, when they call, as we said, on the worst day of their lives, and then helping our emergency responders to get there safely and with all the information they need. So what a critical job you have. And thanks. It was just wonderful to have you on the radio today.
Thank you for having me.
Karrie Hunton, and she's our communications manager for Elko County Regional Communications Center. And thank you, Professor Sexton. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Elko Live today.